only there was a quick, easy way of checking in with your partner during sex and knowing that they're comfortable, happy, and within their limits. This is what this sexual skill is all about and what the traffic light game is all about in just a minute. I've spoken already in the yes, no, maybe game skill section all around this idea of thinking of your comfort zone as a traffic light. So just to recap, green is I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm comfortable, I'm feeling safe, everything is feeling great. Orange is I'm approaching the edge of my comfort zone in whatever way that means for you. That the stroke might be a bit too ticklish, or the spanking might be becoming a bit too hard. You might be doing something that you're not quite sure of, that isn't quite working for you, and you can start to feel that you're at the edge of your limit. We can play around there for a little while, and that's often where learning is, but we don't want to hang around there too long because it might push us into our red, which is our limits. That was too hard, that was too soft, I didn't enjoy that. And when we hear a red during sex, we need to stop, we need to check in. So this is where safe words come in. Now, the BDSM and the kink community are really great at boundaries and limits and safe words and safety because they have to be. Because these sorts of conversations before doing something that is a little bit more extreme, that has more potential for risks or for pain, requires more open communication and more understanding of what each person's limits and desires are. Whereas if you're not that kinky or you haven't explored BDSM, the idea of safe words might be a little bit new to you. But they're important for all sorts of things during sex, even if you're not playing with kink, because it is a really quick shorthand way of just checking in with each other, and all you have to do is say colour, and someone would say green, or they might say orange, or hopefully not, they might say red. And it's really important to be able to do these check-ins because sometimes someone is lying super still, super quietly, and having an amazing orgasmic experience. That is someone that likes to go really still and likes to go really inward and is having an incredible time on the inside, you just can't tell. Or they might look exactly the same and actually be disassociating, having a trauma response, or be in their red, be in a limit, and you don't know that. So it's really important to be able to check in. The idea of the traffic light is also really good because it gives you more practice on listening to your own body, of embodiment, of being able to feel what a green feels like for you, of feeling what an orange feels like, and feeling what a red feels like, knowing what those signals are. It might be things like noticing your body language changes, or you start to disassociate, or you start to feel your heart rate increase, or your breathing changes, or you're unable to look your partner in the eye. Knowing when you're at the edge of your limit is really, really important because often they're not mind readers, and so it's really important to be able to feel it and say orange if you're near the edge of your comfort zone, or red if you need it to stop. Also, it's really helpful to have some non-verbal safe words and signals as well. So obviously the game is about teaching verbal safe words, red, orange and green, but sometimes we can't say red, orange and green. Our face might be in the pillow or our mouth might be otherwise engaged. So it's really helpful actually to pre-agree signals with your hands. So for example, when someone is going down on you, for example, or giving you oral pleasure, a useful non-verbal signal could be if my hand is on your shoulder, that means I would like it more gentle. And if I put my hand on your head, that means I would like it more intense. Other non-verbal signals could be if something is feeling too intense, do a double tap somewhere on their body. So that's the equivalent of a red. Some people love pushing their own boundaries. They are natural adventurers. They really value bravery and curiosity in trying new things. And so if this is you and you're like, yeah, that's definitely me, recognize when it's great to play in your orange and it's fun and it's exciting and it is new and it is adventurous. And remember when you actually push yourself too far or too fast, too quickly. And if you're the opposite and you're someone who prefers your comfort zone and you find it really difficult or challenging to push yourself out into your orange, these traffic light systems will help you feel safe so you can know how to communicate to your partner. Remember, you can play in your orange and have amazing experiences. That's where the newness is. But remember, you need to learn how to recognize when you need to come back to the green and how to voice that to each other. For example, imagine I said to you, just through those doors is an experience you've never had before. Some people would want to rush straight through that door. Some people would be like, no, I'm sitting right here until you tell me more about it. Depending on which side of that fence you sat, it's a good indication of whether you are someone who rushes straight into new experiences or perhaps needs a bit more understanding of how to feel safe before you do it. There's no right or wrong here, it's just recognizing that they both have their drawbacks and they both have their benefits, and so knowing actually we need a healthy balance of both to be able to explore new things. Also, if you're doing this game when you're not yet turned on, the sensation that you enjoy that's a green or the sensation that you don't enjoy that's an orange or a red might be very different if you play this game when you're really turned on. There's all sorts of physiological reasons as to why that is, but one of them is that pleasure releases endorphins, which are the body's natural pain reliever, hence runner's high, and that actually can mean that you have a 3 times higher pain threshold during sex. So that's why when someone scratches your back during sex, it feels pleasurable and just like a really intense sensation, whereas if you got the same touch when you weren't turned on, you'd be like, ow, I don't like that, that's a red. Same with something like spanking. So you might actually really surprise yourself in this game that something, a level of spank on your butt that in the kitchen when you're, just walking around the house would be painful and unwelcome would actually potentially be an orange or even a bright green in this game when you're turned on. So open your mind, be curious about new sensation, try things that you wouldn't necessarily go for, and know that you have the language to communicate if it's a red, orange, or a green for you. And then you get to swap over and explore your partner's body. If someone ever voices their safe word during sex, you hear a red. It's really important to make that person feel safe and supported, not guilty for expressing their boundary and their limit. So don't, if you hear a red because you are having a really good time. It may sound obvious, but it's really easy to get disappointed or attached to a certain outcome when trying a new fantasy together. So remember that it takes work and it's hard to say red sometimes, and so you're wanting to celebrate that safe word and try and make that person who has said red feel as safe and supported as possible. This is where something called aftercare comes in. Again, this is something that the Kinksters and the BDSM community are fantastic at, but we can all learn from it. Aftercare is essentially the idea that everyone has a slightly different emotional, neurological, or physiological response after sex due to all of those hormones and chemicals and neurotransmitters that are being released after pleasure, after orgasm, especially after kink. And afterwards, some people might get the giggles, some people might get teary, some people might get really, really energetic, other people might want to go straight to sleep. Some people want to chat and feel all loved up and gooey and want to talk about it straight away. Others really don't. So understanding what your needs are after sex is really important, and you should chat to your partner about these things and make sure that you're putting in the right aftercare after sex that works for the two of you. So for example, if you know that you get an emotional drop after sex, and you might get a bit cold, you might get a bit non-verbal, you might have a sugar crash, having chocolate on hand, having a blanket on hand, having cuddles afterwards will be really important for you. So recognize what your needs are and how to look out for them. And if you're new to the world of kink and BDSM, or you're trying something new for the first time that neither of you have had experience with, definitely come and chat to a sexologist or a sex educator so that we can tell you what to look out for and how to make sure both of your needs are being met, not just before and during the experience, but after the experience as well. I also want to quickly define the difference between a boundary and a limit. A boundary is something that's more of a felt personal experience. It's your own personal boundaries, something that you do not want or can't want to engage with. So for example, a personal boundary might be, I don't want to have a threesome. I don't want to have sex with 2 or more people. Whereas a limit is something that becomes a rule that also takes into account someone else. For example, the limit might be, a limit in our relationship is threesomes. So the boundary is about your personal felt reds, and a limit is therefore the rule that is imposed perhaps or discussed and agreed with someone else as well. A bonus worksheet that I have in level 1 in Pillow Play is the yes, no, maybe lists or the sexual bucket lists. And this is a really fun worksheet to play. I haven't got a video about it, so I'll tell you a little bit more about it here. And it's essentially a great chance for you to print it off and start reflecting on your own desires, your own limits, and your own curiosities. So it's a big long list of lots of different sexual activities and positions and fantasies and things like that. And you go through it and you tick with a pencil your yeses, your greens, the things that you know that you love. You tick your reds, your no's, the things that are your personal limits or your boundaries, the things that at the moment you're not interested in trying. Now these sometimes change and evolve, which is why I get you to do it in a pencil, but there's no pressure to. These are your current limits. And you tick your maybes, everything that you're curious to try. These are your orange lights. And if you were to give them a go, it would require some sort of conversation around what it would look like for each of you. Say, for example, you took a threesome, you might want to talk about who the third person would be. Is it someone who's of the same sexuality as us? How would we find them? What would we each need to feel safe? Would we need to have a conversation before and afterwards? Is it, someone who we know or a stranger? These are the sorts of conversations you would need to have for your maybes. And it might become a yes, and it might become a no. Or you might need to continue to keep talking about it and revisit it on another day. And these safe words, these red, orange, and green safe words that you've established, will also really help you when you explore your maybes. When you're trying anything new erotically or in the bedroom for the first time, sometimes you can have all the conversations in the world around what you think you both need to feel comfortable and at ease and excited. But when you're actually there and doing it, emotions come up, things change. Bodies aren't robots. We might surprise ourselves or each other. And it's really important to have a quick, easy way of checking in with each other's comfort zone. All you have to do is say colour or a predetermined word for you. And if you hear a green, you know they're comfortable. If you hear an orange, you might need to check in and see what's going on for them and what they might be needing. And if you hear a red, you stop, you chat, you debrief, you work out what's going on.